Where are the parents that are allowing their kids to be eviscerated on national television?
All right, Deborah Mandel, she specializes in family matters like this. And Deborah, I want to know one question. And this makes me a horrible person and parent, I think. How do you tell your kid that they suck?
Well, Glenn, I can tell you, don't give up your day job, okay? You know, when we have our kids, we want them to feel good about ourselves, but the pendulum has swung so far over from where it used to be, where we were almost cruel to our kids, and there was all the, you know, the child abuse awareness, and now it's this, let's have our kids just feel good about everything. So parents overindulge their kids. They don't give them a realistic assessment of who they really are. So how do you sit down and tell a child you're not that good?
Yeah.
You sit them down and you say, hey, you know what? You've got some talents in all kinds of areas. Let's develop the areas where you really do have talent, and we have to kind of appreciate the ones we don't.
Wait a minute. I'm a guy who, I knew what I wanted to do when I was 8 years old. At 13, my folks were driving me to work. My mom sat there in the lobby with me while I went in for my first job interview. Yeah. And I got to tell you, I was worse than I am now, if you could possibly imagine. And I'm on radio at 13. My voice hadn't even changed. I sucked beyond belief, but my parents never said that. They encouraged, you know, hey, I remember them listening to me, and I'd say, how did I sound? And they'd say, you're in there trying, and that's a good thing. So how do you not take away their dreams? Because that was my dream.
Yes.
And yet not have them humiliated.
It is great to encourage your children's dreams, but it's also great to encourage them to have more than just one dream about one thing. It's okay to tell them, hey, you know what? You climb and reach for the stars and go as far up as you can go. Just be aware that everybody may not appreciate you in the way that we do. And it's not really to burst their bubble. It's just to get them prepared for what's out there. I mean, we all know when we're growing up, it can be pretty cruel in the world. Now, that's not a bad thing. You know, mind you, it's okay for kids to fail. You know, in fact, we don't want to protect them so much and give them so much information that might be perceived as negative, because it really is okay to make mistakes and for kids to learn the hard way.
But wait, there's a difference between failing, because there's nothing I hate more than the games where everybody gets a trophy. You lost. Get over it. There is a difference between failing and then being on American Idol, where 37 million people saw you make an ass of yourself.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, huh?
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes people actually put themselves out there because any fame they get feels good, you know,
well,
even though...
that's a different. That's a whole different other psychological issue. I'm just talking here about the parents, because I talked about this on the radio program today, and I had a lot of people call up and, you know, and have both sides of it. I would never let my kids on, period, because I have a right to protect them, and you've got to let your kids go. And I feel it's somewhere in between being the dad from the movie Rudy and being the one that says, my kid lost, and that's okay, he deserves a trophy. Where is that line?
You know, and I think the line is different for different kids as well, because you have some kids who are very, very sensitive just by nature. They're born into the world more sensitive than other kids. And you have other kids that are super resilient. So you might want to coddle the one that's sensitive just a little bit more and be a little softer in your style, whereas the other kid that's more resilient, you can kind of pretty much lay it on the line and be straight with them. So you have to judge your kids according to who they are. But it's a building process. You know, you can't really, some of these parents who would let their kids go on with no talent, you know, they probably haven't even been thinking about this balance all the while. So no wonder this kid is willing to go, because maybe the parents have completely blown up their egos, where they think, they can't even imagine that somebody wouldn't think that they're great and hot and wonderful.
I would love to hear your response as a trained professional. One parent, there was this kid who was singing and he was awful and he was juggling, and they said, you don't have talent. I mean, you're not even a good juggler. And he walked out and he was crying and he said, Mom, I'll never be famous. And she said, oh, yes, you will. And I thought, that's not the response I would give my kid. What is the proper response?
The proper response to that is, you know what, you're hurting right now. It's okay, you're hurting because you feel bad, you didn't get what you wanted. That's okay, you know, and you can work towards whatever you want. Maybe you'll be famous, maybe you won't, but you don't want a child's self-esteem to be based exclusively on fame, because again, there's so much that we don't have control over when we have dreams like that. Our dream can be, I'm going to be the best person I can be, or I'm going to develop my talents in the best ways that I can, because that's where the control is within the person. person. It's not, you can't say, I'm going to achieve that goal, because that means that the world has to cooperate.
Unfortunately, that's a better answer I came up with. You thought you'd be famous as a juggler? Anyway, Deborah, thanks a lot. We'll be back with your email in just a minute. Stick around.